Bloating happens to everyone, and it can feel like feeling swollen after a big meal, or it can even feel like having your stomach triple in volume after eating like a single grape. While bloating is not a big deal and does concern a lot of people, it may be a cause of discomfort for you, and you may be looking for ways to prevent it. First of all, what is bloating? Well, it's a very common condition that's reported by 20 to 30% of the population. And as usual, if you're interested in my sources, they are in my blog post, which is in the description. It has been described as a feeling of intense pressure in the abdominal area while feeling tight and stuffed, and also seeing a rapid increase of abdominal size. It mainly occurs when your abdominal tract is filled with air and gas. It's important to remember that a small amount of bloating is completely normal. First of all, because food takes up space in your stomach, and also digesting that food will release gas and will lead to some bloating. While bloating isn't a serious condition at all, people do say that it can affect their quality of life. Common causes of bloating. Here are the most common causes of bloating: eating or drinking too fast, chewing gum, not chewing your food enough, drinking carbonated beverages, certain types of foods, excessive gas, and constipation. And here are some more serious conditions that may cause bloating. So we have celiac disease or gluten intolerance, food intolerance, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, or even certain eating disorders. How to reduce bloating. There are many different causes of bloating. There are also many different things that you can try to help reduce that bloating, and what works for one person may not work for another person. So I suggest giving the methods that I'm going to be giving you a fair try, but if after a while you still feel that you're bloated and that nothing is working, then I would suggest consulting a doctor, because you may have a more serious condition that can lead to bloating, like the ones that I mentioned above. Reduce the amount of air you swallow. The first thing I suggest to reduce bloating is to try to eat more slowly, to really take the time to chew your food properly, and this will prevent swallowing huge gulps of air as you like wolf down your food. Drinking too quickly, drinking like carbonated beverages like soda and fizzy drinks, things like that. And also in some cases, drinking with a straw can cause bloating. Some people also find that talking a lot as they eat can cause them to swallow a lot of air, and so it can cause some bloating. And finally, an important thing not to do so that you don't swallow too much air is not to chew gum. Experiment with your fiber intake. Foods that contain fiber can be a double-edged sword when it comes to bloating, because some of these high fiber foods produce lots of gas. These include foods like beans, lentils, cruciferous vegetables, and certain grains. But on the other hand, food that are high in fiber can help you eliminate waste more rapidly, and it can help decrease the chances of constipation, which is another cause for bloating. And it's also beneficial to your gut bacteria, to your gut microbiome, which can also, if that is imbalanced, if there's imbalance there, it can lead to bloating. So I suggest you try to watch the video that I made on high fiber foods and their benefits, and you can try to experiment with different types of foods, see which foods seem to be more beneficial than not to you, and kind of play around with that. Also keep in mind that if you've recently switched to a diet that's higher in fiber, it may take some time for you to adjust, and some bloating is normal in the beginning. And I'll tell you more about how to experiment with your diet later on. Take care of your gut health. Speaking of high fiber foods and gut bacteria, it's important to have a healthy gut in order to prevent bloating. And if you consume prebiotics and probiotics in the form of foods or in the form of supplements, that can really help with that. Prebiotics are mainly found in high fiber foods, so you can refer to the previous point for that. And probiotics can either be found in the form of supplements, and they can also be found in fermented foods like yogurt, like kimchi, miso, sourdough, kefir, kombucha, tempeh. Constipation may also be a cause of bloating, and that can be improved by consuming more fiber, drinking more water, and doing more physical activity. Figure out your food intolerances. Certain foods can cause bloating in a lot of people and are kind of known to cause bloating. This is the case for certain legumes and cruciferous vegetables. So make sure with the legumes that you are soaking them, rinsing them, and cooking them enough. Same thing with the vegetables, cruciferous vegetables. Make sure that you are cooking them enough, and that can help reduce the bloating. Beyond this, certain people can have intolerances to specific foods, and this may be the case if you're intolerant to gluten, or if you're unable to digest dairy, for instance. In order to really pinpoint the cause of your bloating, I would suggest keeping a food diary, maybe for a few weeks, and writing down every single thing that you eat and drink, and also rating how bloated you feel on a scale, so that after a while you're able to associate different foods with the bloating and see which foods make you feel bloated or not. And then when you're done with that and you feel like you have the food or the different foods that make you feel bloated, you can try to remove them from your diet to see if anything changes. This doesn't mean that you have to stop eating that food forever, but at least now that you're aware, you can start incorporating it back into your diet very carefully. And you'll know that if there's like two foods that make you feel bloated, you won't eat them on the same day or at the same time, and you can kind of plan around that. Or if you have like an event where you don't want to be bloated, you know that you're not going to have that food or something like that. And if you want to take it even further, you can try to do a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are fermentable saccharides and polyols, basically a little carb, like a chain of sugars that cannot be digested, that is resistant to digestion, and it is found in foods like wheat, in legumes, and in certain fruit and vegetables. The goal is first to eliminate FODMAP foods as best you can, and then to reintroduce them little by little so you can find the main culprit that is causing the bloating. The goal is not to ban all FODMAP foods forever. If you wish to try a low FODMAP diet, I suggest you get the help of a professional, like a doctor or a registered dietitian. Finally, eating too many highly processed foods high in fat and in sodium can also lead to bloating, so I would try to reduce those if you can as well. Exercise. Personally, the best thing I've found to reduce bloating is just to exercise. Studies show that physical exercise can reduce symptoms of bloating, can increase intestinal mobility, and can enhance intestinal gas clearance. That doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym every day or that you have to do a million abs to prevent bloating. You can still reap the benefits by doing mild exercise pretty regularly, like dancing or walking or whatever you enjoy. That's the key. You need to actually enjoy it so that you stick with it. If you're still chronically bloated, go see a doctor. If none of these tips are helping and you're still feeling bloated all the time and it's really affecting your quality of life, I highly recommend you go see a doctor, because you may have an underlying condition of which bloating is a symptom of, like celiac disease, gluten intolerance, small intestine bacterial growth, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, etc. What not to do to reduce bloating. Well, I understand that bloating can really be annoying and that you may want to do anything you can to prevent it. It's important that it doesn't become your next weight loss trend. I sometimes feel that trying to reduce bloating is just another excuse to go on a restrictive diet in the name of wellness. So I really encourage you to be careful of anyone trying to sell you detox teas or de-bloating pills or any juice cleanses or anything like that to prevent bloating. Please be really careful of that. It's just, again, another way to go on a very restrictive diet that will not be good for your health or your weight or bloating for that matter. I made a video on why you shouldn't go on a detox diet here or in the description if you're interested. But basically, these diets will make you lose lots of water weight and it will give you the illusion that you are de-bloating and that it's working. But the second you stop, you will gain all the weight back plus more, and it's just not sustainable at all, and it's just throwing you in a loop of bend then restrict and then yo-yo dieting and all the things we don't want. And please remember that some bloating is normal and natural. It's normal for your stomach to increase volume after you eat. That is completely normal. Everybody's stomach does that. No one has a completely flat stomach, and if you look at pictures of people with completely flat stomachs, is because the pictures are posed. People suck in their stomachs for the picture nature. Everybody does it. I do it all the time. So please be mindful of that and keep that in the back of your head. Bloating is the common feeling of tightness, pressure, or swelling in the abdominal area. In order to help reduce your bloating, here are some things you can try. Chewing your food more slowly, stop chewing gum or drinking fizzy drinks, experimenting with your fiber intake, taking care of your gut health, figuring out your food intolerances, exercising. And don't hesitate to see a doctor if you feel that none of these things are working. But also please remember that some bloating is totally normal, natural, and okay. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye.